What up, family? Chad Cherry back again, another episode of Urban Gastronomist Podcast. Listen, y'all, you know, I grew up in an era where hip-hop people was talking about the busyness when they talk about business, right? Because it was full of funniness. We are back again, 2020, and political stuff, it feels like busyness, right? It feels like there's a lot of funniness. My wife, Karen Cherry, and I, we have often discussions that are deep about these issues in a way that a lot of people don't get to hear. So we're putting it on camera. She's going to talk to you about this Byron Allen and Supreme Court case, Byron Allen versus Comcast to be specific, and the fact that there's an unprecedented thing happening where the Trump administration is actually jumping into a case. Listen, there's so much stuff you wouldn't believe, but we're going to break it down for you.
Hey everybody, it's Karen and I am here with our new segment, How Do You Support Me and Mine? So we're going to jump right into it. You know, there's always so much going on social media and in the news, and there's just this, you're bombarded with information all the time. So we like to bring you things that we think we should be highlighting, right? We may not be able to always pay attention to everything that's going on. So being able to highlight certain things that are important to me and mine and you and yours is something that we always want to do. So I don't know how many of you out there have watched the Breakfast Club interview with mogul Byron Allen. I don't know why I'm getting tongue-tied. But I don't know how many of you actually watched that segment. It was actually a really long one. You can find it on YouTube if you didn't get a chance to watch it. It's like an hour and 15 minutes or so, but they do have it on YouTube where it's cut down. So if you can't watch an hour and 15 minutes, you can absolutely watch parts of it. So what I find interesting about this case and why it affects me and mine is that this particular, this particular case with Byron Allen is versus Comcast. And I believe what they're saying is that Byron Allen, he's got all of these little TV channels about pets and about criminal justice reform, and he's got all of these different types of stations. And Byron Allen actually went to Comcast and has been trying to get his programming on their network for the last 8 years. That is a very long time to be knocking on somebody's door. And Byron Allen basically is saying that he was discriminated against, or his networks, his stations were discriminated against by Comcast because it's a black network. Now, I know that most of you out there who watch the Urban Gastronomist, you may be black or brown, or maybe if you're not, you are progressive and you understand our issues and you support our issues. And so it's important for us to point out the obvious, right? And the obvious is that as black and brown people, we know for a fact that we are discriminated against in housing, in being able to get financing for businesses, in being able to get loans, and being able to, you name it, it goes on and on. So when you get to this level that Byron Allen is on, and him trying to work for 8 years to get Comcast to accept his stations, like, you know that this is a big deal. Now, here's the reason why it affects us. That case is actually opening up today. It's November 13th. That case is opening up today in the Supreme Court. And it's really addressing the issue of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. So I want to read that for you. So the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was enacted during Reconstruction for the specific purpose, and a lot of you may know this act already, but it was created for the specific purpose of ensuring that newly freed African Americans could enjoy all of the civil and economic liberties of freedom. And y'all know how important that is for us, because just saying that a slave was free, but not giving them the opportunity to work, to make money, to support themselves and their loved ones means death anyway, doesn't mean freedom, right? In particular, Section 1981 of the Act prohibits the discrimination on the basis of race, color, and ethnicity when making and enforcing contracts, right? So what Byron Allen is saying is that he was discriminated against, and his channels were discriminated against because of his race, right? Comcast was basically saying, and I'm going to break this down for you. Comcast is basically saying, no, yeah, we spend billions of dollars on channels and putting channels on our network. Yeah, we spend billions of dollars doing that. And we only give like black-owned companies maybe like $3 million. Billions versus very little millions. I know for us that seems like a lot of money, but when you look at the range, they're not really giving us anything. And so they're saying, well, we weren't really trying to spend additional dollars on channels. What Byron Allen is saying, well, while I have been knocking on your door and asking you to adopt my channels and you tell me that you didn't want to spend on more channels, you have added 80 other white-owned companies, but you haven't added mine, right? Sounds like discrimination to me. I don't know. In the link at the bottom of this, we are going to put some places that you can find information. I'm giving you the facts, but I always recommend that you go and look this up for yourself. The reason why we wanted to break it down on this show with this segment is because I know for our professionals, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a culinary professional, if you are a person who is working a job and running a business or just running a business, you don't have a lot of time to dissect these things, which is, again, why we wanted to make sure that we highlighted this. So as I said, this case is in the Supreme Court today. And it is important to me and mine and to you and yours because with the challenge of, the Civil Rights Act, it could roll us back. If Byron Allen loses this case, it could roll us back. That being African Americans. When it says discrimination, it prohibits the discrimination on the basis of race, color, and ethnicity. Anyone who is affected by race, color, or ethnicity, if Byron Allen loses this case, it could roll us all the way back to 1866. Now, it is already difficult. I'm remembering times when Chad and I went to SCORE or tried to get a loan, and just you understand that cycle of being in a situation where it's like, I don't have credit because everything that I pay for is higher than what wealthy people pay for, right? Like if you try to go get a loan, if you try to go buy a house, if you're trying to get into an apartment, if you're trying to buy a car, right? All of these things are more challenging for us as Black people. And it's more challenging for us, although we have the Civil Rights Act of 1866. So imagine if we don't actually have that protection. Now, a lot of people are asking, well, if this could roll Black people back to 1866, why would Byron Allen not just drop it? There's so many good answers to that. That saying where it's like, I'd rather live on my feet than die on my knees. Yeah. For those of you who understand that saying, I don't need to explain anymore. But I will say this, right? We cannot be held hostage any longer. For us as Black and brown people, for our families, it is important for us to have fair practices in contracting. It is important for us to be able to not be discriminated on based on the color of our skin, right? We know and understand and remember that as children, if your parents were like mine, they told you that you had to be better, you had to go farther, you had to go faster, and you could not lose your temper because it could never be seen that you are that Black person, that angry Black person, or that Black person who doesn't operate in excellence, right? So we want to make sure that we are abreast of this court case, that we keep up with it. If you don't look at anything else in the news, I ask that you share this story. Again, I'm not for Comcast. I'm not for Byron Allen. He's not putting any money in my pocket. However, for me and mine, who happen to be Black, this is one of those cases that I want to pay attention to and that you should too. So if you have any questions, I mean, you can Google this. It is a hot topic right now. And so if you Google Byron Allen versus Comcast, there's a whole host of media outlets and newspapers and articles that you can find online about this case. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you can hit us up at chefculture@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer. See you later, y'all.